Yeah, man, that's crazy.
So, okay, is your wife home?
My wife is home.
It's a weird way to start this. Is your wife home? Are you
Funny
by
you should
yourself?
ask.
No, I know earlier you said that you had to go shopping. Did you get that taken care of?
Yeah, I did. I did go shopping. I did get some stuff.
Some
By the
stuff.
time this is actually going up, like I could say, like I was getting my wife's birthday gifts.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so
But she doesn't know.
she doesn't know, but when she watches this, she'll know because it'll already been passed.
Do you think
Time
she
travel, man.
can she hear you right now?
No, she can't. I mean, she's about to leave to pick up the kids. So
Oh,
like,
so
if she,
when she leaves, you could tell me.
yeah, she's like partially deaf too. So like, it's like she can't really hear me. I could
I
talk to her
feel
straight up,
bad
but she
because
won't
it's
hear
like,
me.
are you saying that like legitimately, or is she
No, no, no,
actually?
no. I'm just joking, but she is
Oh,
here.
okay.
She's about to leave right now, though.
Okay. Because I was like, damn, I just laughed at that. Because have you like, dude, I've had people do that before, where they say something like ridiculous that you could take as like, maybe not necessarily, like, I don't know, like, okay, so here's an example, right? I feel bad for saying this, but I was talking to a friend about something,
Yeah.
and he was like, yeah, man, I get it. My fucking dick doesn't work. and I just like laughed because I was like, it was just such an outrageous thing to say.
It's like dark sarcasm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he was like,
You
no,
like
for
don't
he was
know
like,
if they're
no, for
serious or
real.
not.
He was like, for real though. And I was like, oh, I was like, dude, I'm sorry. He was like, no, it's. He was like, I probably shouldn't have said it like that because like it sounded like a joke.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, this is legit. I was like, oh shit, dude, my bad.
Yeah, no, like I sometimes have a hard time with like so it's especially hard when like I mean you kind of knew it was a joke. You just had to make sure. But like it's especially
Yeah.
hard when you're doing it with somebody that you don't know or somebody that you just met and you go
Yep.
hit them with the dark sarcasm or something like that and then they're like, "Wait, are you serious?" Like, what? And then it just gets
Dude,
awkward from there.
I okay, so one time at an old job, I was talking to somebody about Halloween, right? And oh god, it makes me fucking cringe. I was just like, I was like, yeah. I was like, I fucking hate when people are like they're home, but they don't fucking hand out candy or they don't put any out. Those people are assholes.
Damn it, that's me.
And yeah, and the lady was like, we don't hand out candy. I was like, oh man, I don't even know what I said. I think I've mentally blocked it out of my head at this point because I was like, I wanted to just die in my own skin. That was one of the worst, one of the most embarrassing things that I've ever done.
Yeah.
I think like, so I was just thinking about this recently too. Like, have you seen like places already putting up Christmas stuff?
Dude, they started putting up Christmas stuff like at the end of September. I was like, dude, we haven't even reached Halloween. What are we doing?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like we're just skipping Thanksgiving altogether. Let's not be grateful and let's just go straight for the gifts and the lights.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's like, I remember when I was a teenager, we were at like a Christmas store.
yeah.
And this, I thought was my mother,
Oh.
was like leaned over and she was like looking at ornaments or something, some decoration, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, don't buy those. Those are ugly as shit. Dude. And she turned around and I was like, oh my God, like, I'm so sorry. Like, I thought you were my mom. And like, she,
That's
luckily,
awkward.
luckily, like, she thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Because like, otherwise, that could have been bad. Like,
Yeah.
and I
Like,
felt so
sounds
bad because it was like, I was just kind of joking around. Like, I wasn't like, oh, don't fucking buy this, mom. But like, still, just to say that to somebody that you don't know. Like, she turned around like, what the fuck? Like, who the hell are you? Just some dumbass teenager. Like, don't buy that shit. It's fucking ugly shit.
Gosh. Yeah, I've had stuff like that happen before, but not like straight up like ugly shit. Like, no, man. Like, it's always been like, hi. No, and then I just like catch myself. Like, I never get to the point where like it gets super awkward.
Yeah. Like, I remember there's another time when I asked a lady where something was at a Walmart or something like that. She was like, I don't work here. I'm like, well, you fucking look like you do. Like, damn, dude. She was wearing like the colors and everything. She had on khakis and like, you know.
Yeah. I got confused one time with at Old Navy. Somebody thought I worked there. I just had like I was going to buy clothes. I had a bunch of clothes I was going to buy, and I was walking over to the register, and this lady was like, she's like, "Hey, do you work here by any chance?" And I was like, "No." And she's like, "Are you sure?" I was like, "What do you mean? Like, what type of question?
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure I don't work here."
Yeah.
Like, it was just so weird. She's like, "Are you sure?" Like,
Yeah.
I mean, they're not paying me for anything.
You're like, wait, hold on. Let me check.
Let me just check my bank account real quick. No, that don't work here.
Like, this is not what I meant when I said I work in the Navy.
Like, what type of? How do you follow up? Do you work here? Question with a "Are you sure?" Like, no, you don't. Like, it's a yes or no question. There's no "Are you sure?"
I don't. Yeah, I don't get that. I guess it's like one of those like involuntary things you just say. I don't know.
Like when you're caught, like when you're presuming something. I guess I don't know because like it's so weird. Like, if I said yes and she said, "Are you sure?" Like, it doesn't make sense. And if you say no, "Are you sure?" It still doesn't make sense. Like, why?
Well, it's like imagine being an employee and somebody comes up to you and like, "Do you work here?" And you're like, "No," and they're like, "Are you sure?" And you're like,
"Oh shit,
no,
that's right.
I do work here." Oh wait, I do work here. Sorry, my bad. I forgot, dude. Welcome to Old Navy, dude.
Ah, shit, you got me. Yep,
Shit,
I do work here.
Fucking undercover shopper, dude. Busted, man.
Undercover boss. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Shut up. No, I'm the boss. Shut up. Like,
he's got the stupid ass. Like, sometimes the undercover boss, they pick like the absolute worst, like
outfits, like the undercover makeovers.
I'm just like, this guy looks like a undercover guy.
Yeah, if not, they just look like a pedophile with the little mustache that they put on him. The fake ones.
Or like some crazy ass long hair.
Yeah, man, it's freaking wild.
And I'm like, how many of these people are genuinely gonna even know what their CEO looks like? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like I work for a relatively small company, and I couldn't even tell you what my CEO looks like. Like, I just don't understand.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, guys. If you have any embarrassing stories that you'd like to share, put them down below.
Yeah.
Also, look at this. Wow. This is our layout. I know we didn't quite necessarily introduce the podcast, but this is the podcast. Welcome to the podcast. And so when we have guests on, sort of go with something like this. We'll have a third person. You know, it's gonna be pretty dope.
Yeah.
And this is just a background so we can show you guys some stuff.
Yeah.
Some stuff. Like,
it's pretty neat. Pretty neat.
That's pretty neat.
I don't think people would expect this, honestly.
You've gone
crap.
incognito
in the first episode, man.
You like my PewDiePie thing?
Background? It looks pretty neat.
That's pretty neat.
If you guys aren't watching and you guys are just listening, we have some visual material for you guys. So
we do.
Obviously, if you guys are like just listening to the podcast, you know, I don't know what you guys might be doing, driving, cleaning, or whatever it is you're doing while listening to the podcast. You know, you guys can always come back and actually watch it, you know, and have some content to actually see while we discuss topics that we might be talking about.
Yeah, which today is going to be probably a lot of nothing because probably. This is the first one, and we have very little prep work done. Besides the whole, like we fleshed out everything but what we were gonna talk about, pretty much up until about 3 minutes before we started. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you know, you just kind of get what you get with this. So basically, I guess we should probably like summarize like what this is gonna be. I don't know why I keep opening this. So we basically wanted just kind of a platform to talk about things, and not necessarily like the two of us. We do a lot of Pokemon stuff, a lot of video game stuff, just in general, and we kind of are just looking to do some extra shit. Because I mean, really, in reality, we just like to bullshit, and this is a good excuse to do it and make content. So and maybe have some other people on that we like making stuff with, or you know, people in our lives, like
people that aren't necessarily just in Pokemon as well, like or video games. Like if we have friends that we want to invite over to the podcast, we could just get different perspectives, you know, and just talk around topics that are interesting for not just like people that like video games and whatnot. So I think it's a really nice idea, really.
Yeah, for sure. So I know one of the things that I wanted to talk about today
Yeah.
Which, of course, right after we're like, it's not all about video games. Here's a little video games. Dude, so you know Temtem, right? You played Temtem?
I do. I have played it. I actually back them as well.
What do you? They said originally that they were planning on coming out this year.
Partially, yes.
Um, I feel like there's almost no way that's gonna happen now.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, the I think their first idea was, and I haven't caught up with the recent posts mainly because I've been like occupied doing a lot of other content and working on a lot of other projects.
Yeah,
I think the initial goal was, we get this fundraising goal, we're going to go ahead and release on PC. If we make this other goal, we'll go ahead and release on Switch. And then if we release this other goal or reach this other goal, we'll release on PS4 and Xbox as well. So
yeah,
now they're doing Steam, Switch, Xbox, PS4, so all of them. And I think they're cross-platform as well. So I think they reached that goal as well.
yeah,
Not too sure about it, but probably. And then they were planning on releasing on PC this coming November. So this is coming from like last year, 2018. This year, 2019, they were supposed to release, I think, around November. Then it was a 2020 release for everything else.
yeah, yeah. I remember them saying initially it was like it's coming to PC, then it's coming to console after.
Yeah. I don't know how like close they are in development. They've released a lot of
Yeah,
alphas, like a lot of
yeah,
different
yeah,
versions of the alpha. But I don't see them releasing on PC this year either. I see them delaying it a little bit. I haven't read up. Maybe
yeah.
they have an announcement put up or something. But I mean, overall, like based on what I've played, it's a really fun game. It's not gonna, as of right now, take over Pokemon. I don't feel like.
I don't think so either. I think maybe if it had come out around Sun and Moon, that there was the potential for that. But
Yeah,
I think from what we've seen from Sword and Shield, which is obviously its main competitor, I mean, people can argue that all they want, but it's true.
exactly.
I think one, it would be a bad marketing call to release it this year because I mean, Pokemon releases next month,
Mm-hmm.
and then you've got Christmas, and it's like if you release it in Christmas, most people are going to, if they don't have a Switch, they're going to be getting a Switch Lite, they're going to be getting Pokemon for Christmas. Most people are not going to be getting Temtem. I mean, let's be honest. Like if Temtem comes out at the same time as Pokemon, or like roundabout within a month or two, it's
Yeah.
gonna bomb. I feel like it's the same thing that happened with like what was that one game? It was Overwatch, and then the other game that the people who made Borderlands made.
Oh, yeah, I forget the name. That's how bad it was of their timing.
Yeah,
It started with I think I want to say no. Did it start with? It was a weird, similar sounding
yeah,
name.
yeah. It
Um,
was Battleborn. Was it
Battleborn. That's what it
Battleborn?
was. I was actually, yeah, I think it was Battleborn.
It might
Let me
be.
Google it real quick. Yeah, it was Battleborn.
Okay, yeah. So that game, even though like after playing it, it is not Overwatch.
Hmm.
They were very much closely compared when the games were coming out,
Yeah.
and Overwatch killed it when it launched. I mean, I remember playing the beta, and I was like, "This is the shit." I mean, I don't play it at all now, but
Yeah. Honestly, like in my opinion, if Temtem wants to come out at a time where it doesn't really have to compete with Pokemon, it would have to be like anywhere from the April to September timeframe. It can't go into holiday season. September's already cutting into holiday season.
yeah,
Mainly because that's usually when you get the drought of Pokemon fans. Like they've played enough of the game to want a new game, and they've played enough of the game to get bored of the game, and they've
Yeah.
got enough of the game to, if they're doing competitive, to play competitive and either not make it to like worlds or further into the competitive scene,
yeah,
or they've played enough to just get tired of it entirely. And
yeah,
then I think Pokemon is also getting self-aware of that, like the Pokemon company itself, because they've been releasing games annually for the
yeah,
past 2 or 3 years.
yeah, exactly.
So Temtem needs to find that middle ground, because their direct competitor, face it, it's Pokemon,
Yeah,
and the other competitors they have is all the other knockoff like Pokemon or monster catching games that
and
there
they're
are.
like they're really the only one that I can honestly think of that I would even consider is like Yokai Watch,
Exactly.
which is not the disadvantage for Yokai Watch is that's clearly just aimed at children.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen it, and it looks okay, but I don't think that has the right stuff to attract the older Pokemon audience like Temtem
Yeah.
does.
Mm-hmm.
Because Temtem clearly knows the market they're going for. Like they have shinies, they're called Lumas,
Mm-hmm.
and they are old school odds. So
Yeah.
like why do that if
Yeah,
you were
they have
targeting like the newer generation, you would just make them 1 in 4,000 or whatever.
Exactly, and they have a very very intricate like breeding system. They
Yeah.
have a very good. It seems like a competitive structure that they're trying to build as well. With the way you have stamina for your moves. Like you can't just like keep clicking this move all the time. You have stamina built
Yeah.
into it. You have like sync moves. Like if you use this move and this other move after it, it gains a boost or whatnot. So like it has a very solid system in its background. So
Also, one of the big things is like if you're a fan of the ABL, which me and Curse are something we work on, a competitive league, a doubles competitive league. Temtem is completely centered around double battles.
exactly.
I mean, like you're always sending out 2 Temtem when you battle. You're not always going to find 2 Temtem in the wild, but about 50-50, I would say. You're going to either find 1 or 2 Temtem, but when you battle against other trainers, it's always 2v2 as far as I know.
Yeah,
I don't think I've seen any 1v1s.
I haven't either playing through it so far. So that's the thing. Like it's very interesting. I think there's definitely a lot to look forward to Temtem, but they definitely need to hit that mark where it's not caught up in the Pokemon hype. And with Pokemon going with the yearly thing, they have a lot more IPs now to go with. Like they could just go straight for the Let's Go IPs. They could go straight for the the regular remakes, regular series. So like they have other options to go yearly. So Temtem needs to fit in that little gap. Is what I think.
After Christmas, but not too far into the year, basically.
Basically, yep.
But like not too close to Christmas either, because people have no money after Christmas.
Exactly. So like you have to like shy away from like February. You got to push forward. So like you'd have to hit like April and after.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good market for them. I mean, I want the game to be successful because I think like most people know like competition drives ingenuity and all. It's good for consumers when there's competition.
Yeah, like, especially like if you have like you look at the console wars, you look at anything, competition's always good. War. Yeah, exactly. And then that drives competition, and ultimately the consumer is the one that benefits from it. You know what I mean? And then you got to talk about global markets and reaching like a broader audience. And I'm trying to like segue into our next topic here. When you go to global markets, you reach different territories and stuff like that too.
This just in. So basically what he was getting at is some of you may have heard that there are a lot of things going on in China right now. If you're not aware, Hong Kong is currently in protest over... It's a long story. We're not really going to go into the whole why the protests are happening. That's kind of a whole other can of worms than what we really want to talk about.
Yeah.
But one of the things I want to talk about is the issue with the NBA and Blizzard. So for those of you who don't know, Blizzard is a company that they make World of Warcraft, they make Overwatch, they make StarCraft, they make Hearthstone. All these games, they've been around forever. I mean, they made games for the Super Nintendo. Shout out to Blackthorn. But basically, they started out as a smaller group. They're an American company. And, as they've grown bigger and bigger, I mean, with like World of Warcraft, StarCraft, Diablo, all that stuff, they've just gotten bigger and bigger. Eventually, at some point, they got bought out by Activision. And first, I keep getting this static in my ears. I don't understand. But basically, they got bought out by Activision, which most of you, if you play games, you probably already know who they are. They're a big publisher.
Yep.
And they also are in part owned by a company called Tencent. And Tencent is a Chinese company, and they have their hands in just about everything. They're a very wealthy company. Well, recently during a Hearthstone match, and Blizzard's games are very popular in China. Hearthstone is a card game, which most of you probably already know. And during the match, it was a Chinese match. So like they have like a monthly match, I think, or it might have been weekly, monthly or weekly, whatever. And the guy who won, he won his match, and then he held up a sign that said like, or no, he didn't hold up a sign. He said like something along the lines of like support the protest. This is like the revolution of our era, something along those lines, basically.
Yeah.
And when he said that, the commentators like put their heads down and they were like giggling or whatever. That's what they claim. I mean, I watched the video. I can't hear it, but I mean, like whatever.
Yeah.
And then Blizzard proceeded to fire the commentators and ban the player, take his prize money, and basically just denounce them completely. And people were like, yo, this is messed up. Like, because I mean it's in their rules, right? You can't state your political stances and stuff like that in their tournaments and stuff. I understand that. And that's what their American side said. You know, we don't allow anyone to do this. It doesn't matter what it is, right or wrong.
Yeah.
You know, this is the punishment for it. But the Chinese website did not say that. It said something like, you know, he'll never play in competitive esports again, you know, and basically it was like a whole thing of like, how dare you, you know, disrespect this glorious nation type shit. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it was just like, and it's like, dude, this is coming from a Blizzard company. Like, even if it's the Chinese headquarters, like, this is a Blizzard company. This is a company that currently in their California offices out front has a huge ass orc statue with a wolf, and around it are their runes, like their company core values. They have 8 of them, and 2 of them, one being every voice should be heard, and the other one being it's like peace across all worlds, or it's just something along those lines. And it's like they're just completely blatantly going against their core values, I think. And it's just messed up, dude. It's really messed up.
Yeah, it is. And honestly, like at first, like obviously, like you'll hear it and you'll think one thing. Obviously, this goes with every single piece of news you ever hear. You know, you'll obviously be swayed by your personal bias, and everybody has a bias, no matter like what it is. You always have a bias. But then the more you dig into this, like the more convoluted it kind of gets, because, you know, yeah, sure, you got Blizzard. They're in you know, like you said, California, you know, they're American based, but then you have the global market aspect that I was trying to get to with that horrible segue, where, well, now we have Tencent involved as well. How much of how much does Tencent, how much of is Tencent actually involved with Activision? I know, you know, there's so much to talk about in that sense. And then when you do, and this is semi-ignorant, but at the same time, like, you know, I'm going to college for this, and I've taken a class last semester about it, where it's like the global market, you have to take into account like the government, you have to take into account, you know, the population and all this other stuff. And then you also have to think like, well, America's one way, but just because America's this way and America's society is this way, it doesn't necessarily mean that China's society is this way. But then at the same time, China's going through their own set of things right now. So it gets really, really.
Well, it's
really
just like when, what was it, the WWE, when they were doing that show in Dubai, and they had that problem where it was like, what was it, they weren't going to allow women wrestlers or something like that?
Exactly.
And it's like, and people were like, I'm not watching this shit. You know, like.
It's really hard when it comes to like culture and politics. It's really, you're like walking on a lot of thin lines.
But I think, like, to me, it's disappointing because it's like, you know, I don't like the idea of dropping moral values to make a quick buck.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And
it gets really hard to even talk about it, because we're not just talking about something that just happened or just affects China, because this is online. And then how are we going to set rules online when it's kind of like a worldwide, you know, it is worldwide. We're interconnected with all these different, you know.
Well, like China has tried to scrub it off of everything, but you know, like that, when that shit goes up on Twitter, it's gone.
It's gone. It's instantly, you know, exactly. And it's really hard to like either pick a side and say this person's right or wrong, because they're not always necessarily right or wrong, because we might see it because we're on stateside, obviously be like, oh, you know, they don't have freedom of speech, this and that. We're obviously going to side on that side because it's our bias. You know, it's the way, you know, we as a culture in our society has worked. But for China, they're just now revolutionizing this stuff. You know, they're just now protesting throughout all this. It's kind of like, you know, hard to pick a side for them. So,
well, it's weird because like they're in this unique situation where, to my understanding, the way it works is Hong Kong was owned by the British, and when they gave it back to China, they were like, okay, well, you can have Hong Kong back, but it lives by its own rules, which is kind of a weird thing to do with a communist country. I mean, like, so it's kind of like, imagine a circle, and then this is Hong Kong, and everything around it is dictatorship, but in Hong Kong, shit's cool.
Exactly.
And it's like, and then when they start to intrude on that, this is essentially what's happening. They're trying to encroach on that freedom that Hong Kong has, and the people there, which is mostly young people, college students and stuff, they're not having it, which, I mean,
Yeah.
As an American, I don't blame them. Or as a person
Exactly.
of the free world, I don't blame them, I would say.
And that's where like it gets even harder to like dissect
Yeah.
everything that's going on,
Yeah.
because it's going to kind of almost be impossible to like even talk about the subject without like missing other things that affect this situation. That's why it's so blown up over the internet, so blown up on news outlets and everything.
Yeah.
That's why we're even talking about it, because it doesn't just affect like people that play video games. It's not just about that. It's
Yeah.
also about people that actually live in Hong Kong, people that don't live in Hong Kong, people that are directly affected by it. It's massive, and honestly, there's a lot of different topics we could talk about this if we keep going.
There's so much because like we just briefly talked about the Blizzard thing, but it's like there's the South Park thing, there's the NBA thing, there's the just Winnie the Pooh thing.
Yeah, indeed.
But like South Park, I respect the hell out of, because they will, like, they don't put their foot in their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
When they say something, they mean it. They stick by it. And it doesn't matter, what it is, they just do it. I can respect that, And it's like they've scrubbed South Park off the internet there completely, and people are like streaming it in the streets. They're like projecting it and stuff. At least that's what I've read. And it's just crazy. And the same thing with the NBA. It's like, you've got one guy who's the coach for the Rockets, and he puts out a tweet in support of the protests.
Yep.
Well, guess what? He's affiliated with the NBA. And guess who the NBA is affiliated with now?
Yep.
China, because they're starting to watch games over there, and it's like becoming a thing, and they're trying to get the NBA more popular in China. And the dictator in China was fucking pissed. And now he's like, we're not going to show your preseason games.
Yep.
And it's like, this is one dude's opinion. And like, all the people around this guy just shit all over him. They were like, he shouldn't have said that. He didn't mean it. Da-da-da-da-da. Whatever. And it's like, then you've got this, the guy who runs the NBA who looks literally like a serial killer. Have you seen this guy?
I haven't seen him. You pull him up.
I'm going to pull him up. Let me pull him up off screen, actually. I can't remember exactly what his name is. I don't even know if he's the owner, to be honest. I'm not super... Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
This guy. Oh, wait, I'm not even showing on the screen. Here we go.
There we go.
This guy. This guy looks like a murderer. This guy looks like... He's like, so... What would you like for dinner tonight?
Would you like some severed limbs?
The fava beans. Like, this guy looks so creepy. I mean, this has nothing to do with this, but...
Yeah, no, definitely.
He is creepy as shit. I mean, this guy... But yeah, he was basically like... Apparently they did a thing recently, like in the last day or so, where they were just like, we're not picking a side. We just want to, like, stay neutral and just, like... do our thing, but it's like
even by doing that, they're picking a side, because if you're looking at it on the business side of things, what they're doing by not picking a side is maintaining their business relationship solid so that they could continue broadcasting the NBA over there in China. So that's what they're doing. And obviously, like I said, everybody's gonna have their bias. For people stateside, that's like, no, pick the freedom side. You know what I mean? They have every right, and then it keeps going into that tedious.
I mean, it's like, what choice do you have? It's like,
exactly.
You shit on the protesters, you're going to piss off all your American fans, which is the majority of your fan base. You side with the protesters, you're going to piss off China, and that business connection is gone.
Exactly.
Completely. Like, it's over. And it's crazy, and it's like, that's the same thing South Park talked about. Like, I haven't seen the episode yet. I know the gist of it is basically how they're catering... Hollywood is catering movies for China, like with the like the Marvel movies, they do recuts for China specifically. And it's crazy because, like, there's a report that I read the other day that said that they're at a point now where in the next year they'll have more PC video gamers than we have people in the United States.
Yeah, China's massive. China is a massive market, and that's why it's so big.
Lucrative.
It's so big for anybody to do business with China. Like, the NBA is involved with China. That's a huge market for them. They want that business connection. You know what I mean? Video games. It's so hard for like Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo to get their consoles into China. Like anybody, it's just difficult as is. I believe, is it China that doesn't even have YouTube? I think they have like their own version, or they have their own.
They have their own version. I think something like that. I don't know actually.
I don't know if it's changed in the last few years, but like I've been alive long enough to know that there was a time where there was no YouTube in China. It
Yeah,
was something
yeah,
else.
yeah.
So
That,
it's crazy to believe that there's so like the population in China is massive. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It's just it's a huge deal. That's why this is being
yeah,
brought up. It's just that big of a deal.
yeah. I mean, it's just like it's crazy. It's insane. I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
it feels like I don't know. Like it always feels like the whole world is falling apart.
It
But
always
like
does.
recently, if it really feels like the whole world's falling apart.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to get into everything political, but if you guys have watched the news in the last week, like, dude, come on, bro. Can we get a fucking break? Like this is
Yeah.
like we like live in like a fake show. You know what I
We're
mean?
living in a reality TV show,
Yeah.
and it's
Like
not even
that's what
real.
it feels like. That's what it feels like. Anyways, let's go on to something more lighthearted, like movie theater shootings.
Movie theater shootings. That's lighthearted. Oh man. Okay. Have you watched Joker?
I have not.
You have not. Well, Joker. So I watched Joker. Let's talk about Joker. Horrible segue again. Like I mean, two.
Let's talk about
Let's talk about
Joker.
Joker. So since you were talking about the news, and obviously people always making a big deal about things and the world ending. Obviously, when Joker came out last weekend, people were like, we're not going to watch this movie. I don't want to get shot. Theater shootings and all this stuff. Um, a lot of military sites. A lot of military sites were posting, warnings. There might be danger going to your local movie theater on premiere night. Try to hold
Yeah.
off until maybe a few days later. What do you think about all of that? That was
So
kind of
it's
together with
just
the Joker.
okay. Here, like, look at this. This is a Cosmopolitan article. They're very reputable journalists. Why watching Joker in the movie theater is so scary. The threat of violence before opening weekend made the actual viewing experience kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: is like, in some sense, I get it. In some sense, I don't. Like, what is this? People are gonna be like, your ads are based on. Okay, we're on Cosmopolitan. Okay, just relax. I look so overexposed right now.
Yeah.
This is driving me nuts. But yeah, so basically, like, I don't know, like, in some ways I kind of get it because here's the thing, right? If any of you were old enough to know when the Joker Batman movie came out,
The Dark Knight.
there was a very, very serious shooting.
Yeah.
And that shit was no joke, like, for real. Like, it was crazy, honestly. And like I read an article, or not even an article. I read a personally written story of one of the girls who was in that theater about how her boyfriend got shot up and he like used himself as a shield and all this stuff, and it's crazy. It's scary. It makes me scared whenever I go to the movie theaters anytime. It doesn't matter what I'm seeing. Every time I sit down in a theater, I think about that story because it's terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
So in some ways, I get why people were like, this movie is a Joker movie. That just happened not even, I mean, it was like a decade ago, maybe
It was
not
like
even.
10 years, maybe, I think. I think it was like
And
9 or maybe 10. I don't know. I don't remember.
yeah,
Really.
but not that long.
Yeah.
So it's like long enough to where like, and since then shootings have become a lot more prevalent. And I think it's a reasonable concern. I even thought about it when they announced it, but I don't think that scaring everybody and making it so mainstream is a good idea either, because you're almost inspiring it as well.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're, in a way, almost glorifying it.
Yeah.
You do this, you're going to be highlighted. You do this.
And
you're
it didn't
gonna
even
make news.
happen yet.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like, it's like we're shifting the spotlight. We're shifting the focus to, we're waiting for something to happen. It's kind of like when you hear brakes on a car, like a car starts screeching, and you're just waiting for the impact, and you start looking at the road to find it. That's kind of like what we're doing here. And it's sad that we're giving this spotlight. Honestly, like, we do have to talk about it. We do have to, create awareness because it's becoming so common. But at the same time, when is it too much? Because there always has to be a balance, and there's always going to be too much of one thing.
Well, it's kind of like, to me, it reminds me of like a newspaper comic. It's like, you got a news reporter, and it's like mass murderer at Joker movie, and then it's the picture, and it's like, this could be you written in it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that's how it feels. Is like
Yeah,
they're like,
there comes a time
you
where
know,
you're desensitizing. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna be a
yeah,
point where like, oh yeah, there's just another shooting at the local movie theater. Like it's not a
yeah,
big deal because, of course, it is a big deal, but you've already heard of it so much. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
it could be me
Well, it's like
tomorrow.
if some sick fuck is out there and he's like, well, when do I do this? When is my time
Hmm.
to do this? It's like, hey, buddy, we got a time slot all hook, line, and sinker set up for you, dude. We've been promoting it all week, so we're just
Hmm.
waiting for somebody to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, on one hand, I understand wanting to warn people, but people already know mass shootings happen all the time.
Hmm.
I think people probably already know that seeing a movie like this
Yep.
maybe has the potential, more so than some other movies, to have something like that happen.
Yep.
I don't think that scaring people, is an effective way to, like, it's certainly not going to dissuade somebody from shooting up a movie theater.
Yeah. No.
So it's like, what is the point? You're letting people, like, people know.
Hmm.
People know when they go anywhere. When you go anywhere, like, I don't know about you, but I think, like, if I go to a concert, if I go to the movies, if I go to a festival, if I go fuck off, Cosmopolitan. If I go anywhere, in the back of my head at some point in the day, I will think, where would I run to? Or
Yeah.
what would I do? How could I, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Because that's just how things are now. As fucked up as it is, it's true.
Hmm.
You can't not think about it, you know?
It's rough. Yeah, no, and I completely agree. And then aside from also like all the shootings, which obviously, we're talking about like people getting too comfortable with it and whatnot. Then the other issue with the movie was, which I watched a movie, and if you watch the movie and you pay attention, this has almost nothing to do with it, but it kind of does. And it's the fact that people that are reviewing it are saying, well, this is kind of like glorifying or making you sympathize with the Joker and why he does the things he does, or trying to take
Yeah.
his side, which isn't the case. If you watch the movie, and obviously no spoilers for those of you people that still want to watch it, if you watch the movie, that's not the case. You're following the story that they've created, but there comes a point where you as a person, you will say to yourself, okay, yeah, no, this is as far as I go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You fall off at a point,
Exactly.
you know?
And if you don't, well, okay. You know what I mean? There's a
And
lot
I
of other things to
think,
talk about, but
yeah.
yeah, no.
I think, too, like, it also, in part, comes down to a fundamental flaw with the film, is that you really shouldn't have a film where the main character is a villain.
Yeah.
I think in just fundamental storytelling, there's a deep-rooted flaw with that, and I think, like, there's some movies that do it well. I haven't seen this one, so I can't say, but there's some movies that I think do it really poorly. Like, I think there was the Ted Bundy movie that came out recently, or a couple months ago. Fantastic movie. Literally one of the worst ways I've ever seen a movie glorify a villain, a real villain. Like, this is somebody who was actually alive and murdered countless women.
Mm-hmm.
And they make an effort to not show any violence, really. They show, like, very small snippets. You've seen the movie.
Yeah, I have.
But they show very small snippets of the things that he did, which were heinous crimes, like brutal crimes. And they show very little of it. And who do they get to play him? Zac Efron, this handsome guy, and he's charming, which he was in real life.
Yeah.
And that was part of the reason why, he got the notoriety that he did. But something about that movie still doesn't sit well with me, because it's like, you find yourself, you get towards the end of the movie and you're still rooting for this guy.
Yeah.
In a way, because, like, they've done such a good job of making him likable. They make him charismatic, which the guy actually was, and I think they don't do enough justice to the people who were actually killed by this guy.
Yeah. I think in contrast to that, I think the Joker would be more similar for those that haven't watched it. I'd say a little bit more similar to Breaking Bad, where at the beginning you're like, okay, I see why this is happening. I see why this is happening. I see why this is happening. And then there's a point where you're just like, yeah, I don't know about this part. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like it's a lot more similar to that, which I think it does a way better job than obviously the what we were just talking about. So I think it's an over exaggeration. I think a lot of these people that were reviewing Joker this way were more, I think, caught up in the feelings in the moment, maybe, or maybe some things they probably, I guess there's a bias maybe somewhere in there. But again, I think we're trying to dig too deep into the Joker issue, and I don't think it's that serious.
I mean, I think, too, it's just like, I don't know. I find it odd that like that's the movie that the media chose to die, like the hill they chose to die
Yeah,
on,
there's a
I guess.
lot other worse. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and then you get these. I just love the articles of like, this movie is not for children. No fucking shit. It's
Really?
rated R.
What?
No,
What
no
you don't
shit.
say?
Like, it's not like I don't understand. It's not a Marvel movie, so you can't even
Exactly.
use the excuse they used for Deadpool, which a lot of people did, even though it clearly was marketed so that people knew this is not for kids.
Exactly.
Anybody who knows anything about Deadpool knows that's not for kids. I went to the movie theaters with my fiance. I took my sister. I was like 15 at the time, I think, something like that. And I look over and there's a mom and her kid who's like 7.
Yeah, no.
And I'm like, "Oh, you're
big
you guys are in for it." And that was a fun experience.
Yeah,
But
no, definitely.
like, yeah, I just think like it's the same problem that they have in the video game industry. Every time it's like, this game is not for kids. Well, yeah, that's why we have a rating system.
Exactly.
You know, your kids cannot get a hold of these games unless they have an adult.
Parent or guardian. Exactly. No.
You know, I can say with, at least for me, when I was a kid growing up, going to GameStop, it didn't matter if it was a M-rated game or a teen-rated game when I was even younger. If it was like a game that, you know, you could say like, it doesn't really need this rating, you know, they still would not sell it to you.
Yep.
Never once did I get sold a game that I was underage to buy.
Yep.
So I just don't understand. It's like everybody wants to, you know, push off their problems, their parenting problems onto just general society.
Yeah.
You know, I don't understand, like,
It's the
you have to step
culture
up.
of shifting blame and the cancel culture. I think it's
Yeah.
all in the same boat. I think those are really good like topics to talk about for sure.
Yeah. Like,
but,
we live in the pass the buck era. Like,
Mhm.
you know, you've got these moms recently that are suing Fortnite because it's addictive.
Unplug the game.
And I'm like, then tell them to turn it off. What the fuck do you mean?
We have all these features and like all this technology. Go to your router, go to your app for your router and change the password or make it lock certain IP addresses at a certain time. Like there's options for this.
Or you could even do it on the console where it only allows you to play between certain hours or for a certain amount of time.
I have an app on my phone that I can access my router from my phone and just literally like go device through device and just turn off the device I don't want connected to my access point. So like there's options. It's just parents not wanting
step up,
to
dude.
take responsibility.
It's time to step up. Step up. Like, I don't get it, dude. It makes me so mad. And it's like, I played Fortnite.
Yeah.
There's nothing more addicting. There's nothing addicting about that game compared to some other games that I played. Like, there's not even loot boxes in Fortnite.
Yep.
You know, like, that's an actual fucking issue.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And it's like these kids, like, Fortnite it's a fad. It's lasted a long time, but it's dying down.
Oh yeah, definitely. It is. It actually is. Yeah.
And like, you know, like, dude, I know people who, I mean, I was kind of one of them. When World of Warcraft was a thing, I mean, it's still a thing, but like, hot damn, dude. I know people who wasted their whole life, like 10 plus years on World of Warcraft. I won't say wasted because, you know, I play video games all the time too. It's just different ones, but still. I mean, definitely. Like, you know, just be a parent. Like, my parents didn't let me play games past a certain bedtime, you know?
Yeah, and I got grounded all the time. You know, you slip on your grades, you don't get to play, you do this, you don't. It's just called parenting. And I think, like, a lot of these people just I think they thought it was easier. I don't know. Like, it's not. It really isn't. This is coming from a guy that has 2 babies. You know, and
this comes from a guy who has none.
And I'm pretty sure that if my kid, you know, I mean, sure, short term, if they play the video game, I get more me time. Long term, if they play a lot of video games, it screws them up. Like, you just got to. I
think that's the problem.
You know what I mean? Like,
I would imagine it's either like these parents who are scared to discipline their kids, because they never did when they were younger, or it's parents who are like, I can't be bothered to fucking parent. I'm just gonna do my own thing. Why can't they just learn to take care of themselves?
Because they're
clearly.
Kids.
And it's like, they're my kids. They wouldn't just disrespect what I'm saying. Yeah. They clearly have a problem. It's an addiction, and it's the game's fault. Yeah. And I'm just like, when are we going to get over the point where games are the issue? Like, haven't we realized yet? I feel like as a whole...
It's not games. It's not movies. It's not books. It's not any other form of, like, entertainment. I think it goes beyond that.
Yeah.
I'm taking a psychology class right now, and we're actually talking about parenting and like the forms of conditioning. And like when you're born, your mind processes these things. Like you either, you're trying to get used to identifying what, a boy and a girl are, and knowing that that's sex, and then knowing what like gender is. Like there's different times in your life that you can acquire this, like these concepts. When you're from like the ages of 7 to like I think 12 or beyond that, like throughout that time you're starting to grasp like things that aren't real, like not non-tangible things. Like you're starting to grasp concepts, and even then you don't really know, because you're still in this mindset of like everyone thinks the same as me. And you start learning that, like I'm learning that now in psychology. I feel like a lot of these parents, like, and a lot of these people that are thinking certain ways, they're just not like educated, or they have it, or they don't have the knowledge, or they assume things are a certain way just because this is what they were told, not what is actual facts. You know what I mean? It's just,
well, that's the thing, is like people don't respect facts anymore.
I know, like, everything's fake.
Everything is fake news. Everything is like, oh well, everybody who went to med school is lying. Vaccines cause autism. And I'm just like,
but that's what the government wants you to think.
I mean,
obviously.
Those people clearly have already had plenty of vaccines then, if that's the case. Like, I don't understand how.
Yeah.
Are people just fucking bored? They're like, you know what? I don't have anything to do. The Earth's fucking flat. And, like, everybody's got autism now. Like, I don't understand.
Global
how
warming,
does
we're
it
just
get
getting
like
closer
this?
to the sun.
Dude, our unvaccinated rate has gone up insanely high in the last couple of years because of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't get it. What possesses these people? These are the same people who are like, they hit you up in your fucking Facebook inbox. They're like, hey, man, we haven't talked since high school. Dude, how would you like to be your own boss? Are you interested? You know what I mean? Like, if they try and sell you on some fucking social media marketing shit.
These are the people that in 2019 are still sending you Farmville requests.
Oh, shit, dude. They're like, dude, if you just, like, buy $300 of this drink and you get 4 of your friends to sign up, then you make $50 for each of them, and then you've only made $200, but you paid $300, and then I get the extra $100, and you get nothing. Doesn't that sound great? And they're like, "Fuck yeah, dude, sign me up."
The math doesn't even fucking add up. What are you talking about?
They're just like, "Hell yeah, man, I want to be my own boss." And then they're the people on LinkedIn who are like, "It's like, what do you do? What's your position?" They're like, "I'm a CEO. I'm a business owner." It's like, but of what? It's like, oh, a marketing company.
Gotcha.
It's just like, okay, dude. I don't know, dude. The world's going fucking crazy.
It is. It always is. It'll probably get worse here in 5 years.
I think we're due for it to like kick back around. Kind of swing the other way. I'm hoping.
I'm kind of hoping not, because usually things that like no, hear me out for a second, because usually if you see history, right? Yeah. Usually these big like shifts in society and in the economy and in the world are usually caused by a world war. I don't think we want a number 3. Like, that's
true.
I don't think we want a number 3. It'd be really bad, especially with all the advances we have so far. So
yeah, well, I mean, it'd be like a robot war.
Yeah, that and
pretty
like
much.
A cyber war.
There's so much dangerous shit like EMPs.
Yeah,
EMP. Have you ever looked at like videos about like? Well, you probably just know.
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah.
But like an EMP can literally destroy a nation in like hours. Yeah. Like if you have no electricity, you lose water, you lose obviously electricity, but you lose all forms of communication now.
Yep.
Cell phone towers are out. Everything's out. You're fucked.
You're out. And then after that, it's so easy to do anything you want to do, and it's really scary when you come to think about it. Obviously, I can't personally
there's no communication.
I can't go too in depth with things that I know that are a fact that we have, because I still hold some stuff that I have to hold. But it is just scary to think, just thinking of the concept of it and the implications of what an EMP can do, and then what you can do after that. It's just it's too much.
I mean, it's basically like it's ultimate. Like you don't need nukes to do that kind of stuff.
You don't.
You really don't. Like EMPs, I think are more dangerous because the thing is with EMPs is they destroy things that use electricity as well. Yep. So not only that, but like if you were to use one that was big enough, you'd start from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like we've gotten to a point with technology where it's like, everything's built up of components, and then we use better components, more advanced components to make those components.
Yeah.
Like what happens if we get to a point where at some point, for whatever reason, we need to go all the way back to the start and be able to make it from scratch and then work
It'll
back
almost
up.
be harder to train somebody to learn what it takes to start rather than teach them the things you need to continue advancing. I think it gets harder to reverse engineer it in a way. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, because it's like we've come so far that like the starting line is so abstract to us now.
So like basic, for example, like if we go really basic, like basic farming, right? Do you know any like maybe our knowledge put together is worse than anybody maybe 10, 20 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
I mean, like,
know the
sure,
first
I
thing
could
about
plant. I can plant something and grow it, but
that's
like,
about it.
I don't know how to maintain crop.
I don't know how to
if I had to
fertilize
grow a
very well.
field of corn,
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what season corn even grows it.
Exactly, and that's a thing. You know what I mean? Like this is obviously super basic,
Yeah.
But
it's like if you don't have a phone, you can't look it up.
I can't look it up. So now
you
how
need
do
a
I
book.
figure out? It's trial and error.
You go to the library.
You're
probably.
in the library. Yeah.
EMPs took out all the goddamn books.
Where's my ebook?
The fucking library only has ebooks. Whose idea was this?
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. It's scary.
It's scary to think about. Yeah. I'm just like, I don't know. That's why I'm scared to have kids, kind of a little bit, because it's just like, look at what we've been left, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, how do you feel about it? Because obviously, I'm not a parent. Like, have you thought? I'm sure you've thought about like what they're going to have to deal with when they grow up.
Yeah, my wife and I are terrified. Like, it's scary. Shit's scary already right now. Like, we could only imagine. Like, we can't imagine how it's going to be for them. And then, like, when they become teenagers and they come to us and be like, "Well, you just don't understand," I'm be like, "No, I don't fucking understand." But guess what?
Yeah,
shit's tough. Like, that's at the end all be all. It's always going to be the same lesson. I feel like it's going to be like, life is not fair. Life sucks. You just got to find a way to work with it. I think that's like the general concept that all parents need to like.
Well, I think like every generation has a struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
think that like it's just different, and it's hard for different generations to see eye to eye all the time because like, a lot of millennials and stuff don't like boomers because they've left us just the absolute worst housing market, job market. The way college works now is just insane. Where the fact like people are going into hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt to go to school, getting out, and they can't find a good enough paying job or a job at all. And I think like it's just, but then, it's like you have some people who are like, oh, well, I fought in World War II, which is fucking scary as hell. I mean, like if you watch some footage from World War II, it's unreal is the best way to describe it. Like the people who are still alive who fought in that war. There's a good channel, by the way, I'm going to recommend. It's called, I believe it's Memoirs of World War II or something like that. I highly recommend you guys go check it out. They do interviews with some of the remaining people who are still alive from World War II, which there are literally not that many at all anymore.
Yeah, no.
And they basically tell their story of the war, how they got into it, how they got into the military, all that stuff. It's fantastic. It's 100% worth your time. And, keep a box of tissues because that shit's fucking sad.
Yeah.
That stuff's good. And fuck, I was going to say something. I don't remember what it is now. I don't even know. I don't know.
Yeah. You just lost your train of thought.
I know. It's completely gone. It's completely gone.
That sucks.
I had it. Dude, how crazy. Like, I like living in that time period. It must have felt like the world was coming apart then, obviously.
Yeah.
Because it was. You know what I mean? It's like you have all these countries, all the countries, the major countries in the world at war. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a world war. That's what it means. But still, like, when you really think about it, it's insane. It's scary. It's like, it's crazy to me because it's like, we've never really had an invasion on American soil.
Yeah.
But I can't even imagine what that would be like now. Like, it feels so foreign. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
it's usually just like, other countries and stuff, but not us.
Yeah. But it's like that's like kind of shit that happens in like Call of Duty. It literally did happen in Call of Duty.
Yep.
Which that was like eerie. You see it, you're like, holy shit. Mm-hmm. Like in modern times, it's just, I don't know, man. The world is crazy. It's so crazy.
Tough times.
For
Foul
sure.
times.
Foul play.
Foul play.
All right, guys. Well, I think are you good? You want to wrap it up?
Yeah, we can wrap it up.
All
Hold
right,
some
guys.
topics
Well, thank you.
so that we talked about today for next time.
Yeah, I would have liked to switch it to a lighter mood thing, but honestly, I don't have anything else, so it is what it is. We'll leave you guys with some food for thought, at least.
Yeah.
But thank you for joining us for that first episode of the Foul Play podcast. I'll get this overexposure issue figured out. I think it got dark as we were recording.
I think that's what it was.
So the camera's trying to compensate.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for joining us, guys. We'll see you guys we'll probably do this on like a weekly basis or something like that, or a monthly basis. So we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We're still working out the kinks, but thank you for joining us. My man, Curse, this way, this way. His stuff will be down below if you want to check him out. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Take care.